Your phone plan says $80, your bill says $96, and somehow both numbers are technically correct. Last year, Verizon paid $100 million to settle a class action lawsuit accusing them of quietly charging their customers for 7 years for something the customers never agreed to. The second the check cleared, Verizon raised the price of the thing they got sued for. Twice. They did not stop charging it. They did not pause. They did not even apologize. They charged more. And here's the part that should bother you. The thing they're charging you for has a name you've definitely seen on your bill. It's right there, right now, sitting between the plan price and the taxes, in the section where normal people stop reading. And it is taking money out of your bank account every single month. Look at the bill. Advertised price, $79.99. Actual amount charged, $96 and change. That gap, $16 a month, is not a tax. It's not the government, it's a fee your phone company invented. They gave it a name that sounds official. They raised it by 80% in the last 2 years, and they did it while you weren't looking. In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what this fee is, exactly how much it has cost you, and exactly how to make it stop. By the end of this video, you will have a script you can read out loud, word for word, that statistically will get you money back. Spoiler, the phone company already knows you're going to call. They've already decided what they'll offer you. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about the bottom of phone bills. If you're someone who looks at the advertised price of a plan, signs up, and then somehow ends up paying 20% more every month with no idea why, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because I'm about to walk you through exactly how the 3 major American carriers, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, built one of the most successful psychological pricing strategies in modern American consumer history, and how, with a 15-minute phone call, you can claw a meaningful piece of it back. Real quick, comment below with the carrier you're on right now. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, or other. I want to see something at the end of this video. Let's go. Here's the thing. Most people think their phone bill has 2 categories, the plan and taxes. You pick the plan, the government adds taxes, whatever number lands at the bottom is just life. That belief is exactly what makes the trick work, because there is a third category, and that category lives in the same neighborhood as the taxes, dressed in similar clothes, with a similar haircut, hoping you can't tell them apart. Verizon calls their version the Administrative and Telco Recovery Charge. AT&T calls theirs the Administrative and Regulatory Cost Recovery Fee. T-Mobile calls theirs the Regulatory Programs and Telco Recovery Fee. Listen to those words. Recovery, regulatory, administrative. Every single one of them is doing a job. Administrative sounds like paperwork. Regulatory sounds like Washington. Recovery sounds like the company is reluctantly passing along something it was forced to spend. None of those words sound like what the fee actually is for you, a price increase. I went and read what each carrier says these fees are for in their own words, on their own websites. And AT&T's disclosure is almost beautiful in its honesty. Quote, "This fee is not a tax or charge which the government requires AT&T to collect from its customers." Read that again. Not a tax, not a charge the government requires them to collect. They just chose to charge it. What is it for then? AT&T says it's for cell site rents and interconnection costs. Verizon says it's for property taxes and regulatory obligations. T-Mobile says it's to recover certain costs they have already incurred and continue to incur. Look, every one of those things is a normal cost of running a phone company. Cell tower rent is overhead. Property taxes are overhead. Network maintenance is literally what providing service is. These are not separate, surprise expenses that suddenly appeared on the carrier's doorstep. They are the business. Imagine if Starbucks added a bean acquisition and barista compensation recovery charge to the bottom of your receipt, 90 cents on top of your $4 latte. You would be confused. You would be angry. You would ask why they didn't just charge you $4.90 up front. Imagine if a pizza place said the pizza was $14.99, then added a cheese recovery fee, an oven maintenance surcharge, and a dough administration fee, and the actual price was $19. You would not say, "Well, I guess cheese has gotten expensive." You would say, "Why didn't you just tell me the pizza was $19? But with phone bills, we have been trained to accept the scavenger hunt. We see the fee, we sigh, we assume it's normal, we move on. That little sigh is worth billions of dollars a year, and it didn't get there overnight. The Verizon admin fee did not appear on your bill yesterday. It has been there, growing in silence for 21 years. This is not a recent decision by a recent executive. This is a long, patient, deliberate strategy that has been running across multiple CEOs and multiple generations of cell phones. Once I show you the timeline, you cannot unsee it. In 2005, the same year YouTube launched, Verizon quietly added a 5-cent line item to your bill. 5 cents. Nobody noticed. The few who did assumed it was some kind of regulatory thing. By 2014, the year Disney bought Star Wars, that same fee had grown to 88 cents, still small, still unnoticed. By 2018, it was $1.78. Then 2022 happened, and this is the year the mask comes off. Verizon raised the fee from $1.95 to $3.30 in a single move, 70%, overnight. That should have been the moment everybody noticed. It wasn't. You know why? Because $3.30 still doesn't feel like a lot of money. And that is the whole entire trick. They figured out that humans don't react to a number under $5 the same way we react to a number over $5. So they stayed under $5, and they kept climbing. December 2024, $3.30 becomes $3.50. August 2025, $3.50 becomes $3.78. In 2 years, Verizon raised this single fee by 80%. The plan price didn't change. The network didn't change. The service didn't change, only the fee changed, and it changed because somebody decided it would. For data-only lines, tablets, hotspots, the increase is even more aggressive. In one stretch, Verizon raised the data line fee from $1.60 to $3.97, a 148% increase on a single line of your bill. Sit with that, 148%. If your rent went up 148% over 2 years, you would burn the building down. But because it happened to a line item you don't look at, on a bill you skim, on a service you can't easily leave, you didn't even know it happened. AT&T did the same thing. On December 1st, 2025, a few months ago, AT&T raised their administrative and regulatory cost recovery fee from $3.49 a line to $3.99 a line, 14.3%, in 1 month. T-Mobile's version is also at $3.99 a line. So here is where we are. In 2026, all 3 major American carriers are charging you somewhere between $3.50 and $4 per line, per month, every month, on top of your advertised plan price, for something that is not a tax, not a government fee, and not anything you agreed to when you signed up. 3 companies, 1 playbook, almost identical numbers. You think they're competing? Look at those numbers again. Let me put it in dollars you can actually feel. Family of 4 on Verizon, 4 voice lines. Each line gets hit with the $3.78 admin fee. That's $15.12 a month from 1 fee. Add Verizon's separate 21-cent regulatory charge per line. Another 84 cents. You are now at $16 a month from 2 fees. Before we even get to federal universal service charges, state taxes, 911 surcharges, the actual government stuff. $16 a month is $192 a year, from 2 line items most people don't even see. Hand on heart. When was the last time you actually read your phone bill line by line? Like, actually read it, not glanced at the total. Read every charge. Be honest. For most of you, the answer is never, which is exactly what the carrier is counting on. Now stretch it out. The average American keeps their carrier for about 6 years before switching. 6 years times 192 is $1,152 per family from those 2 fees. And if your plan is locked in at, say, $180 a month, Verizon's 3-line unlimited tier looks like that on the website. Your actual bill after the admin fee, the regulatory charge, the federal universal service charge, and state taxes lands somewhere around $215. So you are paying $35 a month more than the advertised price, 19.5% over what the marketing told you. Imagine going to a restaurant where the menu says $15 and the check says $17.93 every single time, forever. Now multiply that across the whole country. Verizon has roughly 90 million postpaid wireless connections in the United States. At $3.78 a month, that 1 line item generates somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 billion a year. $4 billion from a fee. Hold on. $4 billion. Let me say it again. $4 billion from 1 line item, from 1 company, in 1 year. AT&T has roughly 72 million postpaid lines. At $3.99 a line, another $3.5 billion. T-Mobile postpaid around 70 million lines, another $3 billion. Now we're talking real money. Roughly $10 to $11 billion a year collectively from a single category of fees that, let me say this one more time, are not taxes, not government mandated, and not part of the advertised price of any plan. And look, you might be sitting there going, okay, but I'm not a family of 4. I'm 1 person, 1 line. How bad can this really be for me? Fine, single line math. Single Verizon postpaid voice line. Plan, $80. Admin fee, $378. regulatory charge 21 cents. Federal universal service charge, roughly $2. State and local taxes, varies, but call it $5 in a typical state. You walked in expecting to pay $80. You walk out paying $91. $11 a month over the advertised price. $132 a year. Across 10 years of being a customer, that's $1,320. From one line. Take a beat with that. $1,300. That's a vacation. That's a month of rent in most American cities. That's a year of car insurance for a clean driver. And it has been sitting in the bottom of your phone bill, $4 at a time, your entire adult life. Quick check-in. Roughly 7 minutes have gone by since you started this video. In those 7 minutes, every Verizon postpaid customer in America has collectively been billed about $30,000 in admin fees. Just during this video, from that one line item alone. The meter does not stop. Now you might be thinking, okay, Nick, this is annoying, but why? Why do it this way? Why not just raise the plan price by $3 or $4 and skip the whole song and dance? Wouldn't that be simpler? It would. And here's why they don't. There is a name for what these carriers are doing. Economists and consumer researchers call it drip pricing. The Federal Trade Commission has been studying it for over a decade. A 2012 FTC working paper specifically calls out cell phone bills as a case study, and the research consistently shows drip pricing works. It works really, really well. Drip pricing is when a company shows you one price up front, the headline number, the one in the commercial, the one in the giant text on the website, and then drips additional mandatory charges onto the bill afterward, like water from a faucet, until the real price is something different from the advertised price. Here's why it works. Behavioral economists have a concept called anchoring. The first number you see, the advertised price, is the number your brain locks onto. It becomes the reference point for every decision you make from that moment forward. So when you see $79.99, your brain says, my phone plan costs $80. That number is now anchored. When the bill arrives at $96, your brain does not recalibrate. It does not say, oh, my phone plan costs $96. It says, my phone plan costs $80 plus some weird stuff. The fees feel like an exception, not the rule, even if they show up every single month for 10 years. 10 years. 12 months a year. 120 bills in a row. And your brain still calls it some weird stuff. That is not a malfunction. That is your brain working exactly how it evolved to work. The carriers just figured out how to weaponize it. Here's the second reason. Itemized fees are easier to raise than headline prices. Think about it from the carrier's side. If Verizon raises the advertised price of their unlimited plan from $80 to $84, that is a news story. Tech press writes about it. Customers compare carriers. The marketing team gets nervous. But if Verizon raises the administrative and telco recovery charge from $3.50 to $3.78, nothing. Maybe one reporter at one tech blog writes a story. The headline plan price, the one that all the comparison websites pull from, the one in the commercials, doesn't change at all. Verizon literally did this in 2025. They had a public 3-year price lock guarantee on their headline plans. It was a big marketing campaign. Trust us, your price won't go up. And then they raised 4 separate fees that aren't technically part of the headline price. The fees aren't covered by the guarantee. That is not a loophole they exploited. That is the entire reason these fees exist as separate line items. The advertised price is for competition. The fee is for extraction. The advertised price is what gets you to compare. The fee is what shows up after you already compared. And here's something that will sound conspiratorial, but it's just true. Every major American carrier has a pricing and revenue team whose entire job is to figure out how much they can charge in below-the-line fees before customers start churning. They have models. They have data. They literally know, to the penny, the exact admin fee at which the cost of customer cancellation starts to outweigh the revenue from the fee. When Verizon raised the fee from $3.50 to $3.78, that was not a random number. That was a calculated number. Somebody in a conference room with a slide deck said, at this price point, we estimate sub 0.3% additional monthly churn against an annualized revenue lift of approximately X million dollars. And everybody at the table nodded. You are not paranoid. You are being optimized against. That is the difference between being a customer and being a target. A customer has a relationship with a company. A target has a number on a spreadsheet. Now, I told you at the top of the video that Verizon paid $100 million to settle a class action lawsuit about this fee. Let me tell you how that actually played out, because the story is genuinely incredible. In late 2022, a group of Verizon customers got together and sued. The case was filed in New Jersey federal court. The plaintiffs argued, essentially, that Verizon was engaged in deceptive marketing. They said Verizon had been advertising plans at one price, knowing full well the actual bill would arrive at a different, higher price. and that the administrative charge was, quote, an unfair and unconscionable pricing practice. The lawsuit covered customers who had been charged the fee between January 1, 2016 and November 8, 2023. So basically anybody with a postpaid Verizon line during a 7-year window. In January of 2024, Verizon settled. They agreed to pay $100 million into a settlement fund. They denied any wrongdoing, of course. They said the fee was always fully disclosed. They said they were settling to avoid the cost of further litigation. Here is what happened next, and this is the part nobody told you. The class, meaning the affected customers, turned out to be about 5.2 million people. They had to file a claim. The deadline was April 15, 2024. Per the settlement, each customer was supposed to get a minimum of $15, plus an extra dollar for every month they'd been billed the fee. The maximum was $100. In reality, most people got somewhere between $4 and $14. Some payments came in as low as $5.33. Why? Because the legal fees took $33.3 million off the top. That's 33% of the settlement, gone to the law firms before any customer saw a dime. Then there were incentive awards, thank you payments to the lead plaintiffs of $3,500 each to 129 people, another $450,000 off the top. Quick math. The lawyers walked away with more money than every single one of the 5.2 million customers combined who actually paid the fee. Read that sentence twice. After all that, the remaining money got divided across millions of claimants on a pro rata basis. $5, $8, $10 if you were lucky. But here's the kicker. After the settlement was finalized, Verizon kept charging the fee. They never stopped. They never even paused. The settlement documents explicitly said Verizon would continue to collect the administrative charge going forward. And here is the punchline. Less than a year after the lawsuit settled, December of 2024, Verizon raised the fee from $3.30 to $3.50. Then 8 months after that, August of 2025, they raised it again to $3.78. So they paid $100 million to settle a lawsuit alleging the fee was deceptive. And then within 18 months, they increased the fee by almost 50 cents. That $100 million settlement? At Verizon's current rate of collection on this fee, they earned that back in roughly 9 days. 9 days. That is not a deterrent. That is a parking ticket. And by the way, Verizon is not alone in this. AT&T got hit with a nearly identical class action. Same allegation, same fee, same pattern. That one is still working through the courts. T-Mobile has faced multiple consumer complaints, particularly around how their fees interact with their advertised price lock guarantee. The whole industry is doing the same thing. The whole industry is getting sued for the same thing. And the whole industry is continuing to do it. Regulators have actually tried to step in on this, and the result is depressing. In April of 2024, the Federal Communications Commission rolled out something called the Broadband Consumer Labels. The idea was modeled directly on the nutrition labels on food packaging, a standardized box at the point of sale that shows in plain English the actual total price of an internet or wireless plan, including all fees. Sounds great. Real fix, real transparency. Here's the problem. The labels are only required at the point of sale. They are not required in the ads. They are not required in the TV commercials. They are not required on the billboard. And the carriers, the very week the labels came out, started raising the fees the labels were designed to expose. It is one of the strangest things I have ever watched a regulator do. Mandate transparency, and then watch the companies adjust around it within 90 days. Which raises a question I cannot stop thinking about. If a federal regulator says you must disclose a fee, and you respond by raising the fee, what exactly is the regulator regulating now? I know what some of you are thinking. If this is so bad, why doesn't anybody notice? Why don't we all rise up and switch carriers? There's a specific reason. Let me walk you through it. Phone bills are designed to feel like weather, like rain, like what can you do? But they are not weather. They are contracts, plans, fees, credits, devices, and choices layered together until you stop seeing the pieces. Your phone bill is not one bill. It is 6 smaller bills wearing a trench coat. And the trench coat is held together by 3 psychological forces. First, salience. Salience is just a fancy word for what your brain pays attention to. The advertised price of your plan is highly salient. The bottom line total on your bill is highly salient. The little $6 admin fee buried in the middle of a 40-line itemized statement is not. Your brain literally edits it out. By itemizing the bill, by giving you more information, the carriers make each individual charge harder to understand. Transparency weaponized. Second, habituation. Habituation is what happens when your brain stops paying attention to a repeated stimulus. The first time you see the administrative fee, you might pause. You might wonder what it is. By the second month, it's familiar. By the third month, it's wallpaper. By month 12, your eyes literally skip over it. You are not deciding to ignore it. Your brain is filtering it out before you can decide. Third, switching costs. The average American spends roughly 2 hours researching a new carrier, transferring a number, updating saved card information across apps, learning a new app, and dealing with the inevitable hiccup in the transfer. 2 hours of your life to save $16 a month. Most people do the math, consciously or unconsciously, and say it's not worth it, so they stay. And the carrier knows you'll stay. The fee is, in a very real sense, priced exactly low enough that switching isn't worth your time. That is not a coincidence. That is design. The carriers have, with surgical precision, made the cost of escape exactly equal to the cost of staying, so you stay forever. And the autopay makes it worse. Autopay is convenient. Autopay can save you a few bucks via discount. I am not anti-autopay. But autopay changes your relationship with the bill. Without autopay, a bill asks permission every month. With autopay, a bill simply happens. And when something simply happens, you stop interrogating it. Background noise is where fees go to become permanent. Okay, we are past the easy part of the video. Now I want to talk to the skeptics, because if you are still watching, I know there are a couple of voices in your head pushing back, so let me say them out loud and let me knock them down one by one. Voice number 1. Nick, come on. These fees are just covering legitimate regulatory costs. The company isn't really making money on them. You're being dramatic. I love this objection. Because the carriers love this objection. Because this objection is exactly what they spent years training you to think. Phone companies do pay some real regulatory costs. The Federal Universal Service Fund, for example, is a real federal program the FCC requires carriers to fund. And carriers are allowed to pass that cost to consumers as a separate line item. That charge is called the Federal Universal Service Charge on your bill. It is real. It is a different line. It is not the line we are talking about. The line we are talking about, the administrative fee, the telco recovery fee, the regulatory cost recovery fee, is, in the carrier's own legal disclosures, not a government-mandated charge. AT&T literally says this in writing on its own website. If the admin fee were just covering real costs, it would not be a billion-dollar profit center. Verizon's profit margins are public information. The admin fee is not a wash. The admin fee is a meaningful percentage of how Verizon makes money. You are not subsidizing their costs. You are subsidizing their stock buybacks. Voice number 2. Well, every carrier does it, so what's the alternative? I have to have a phone. This is the one that statistically will keep you on your current carrier for the next 10 years if I don't push back on it. So I'm going to push back on it. Every major postpaid carrier does it, but not every carrier does it. T-Mobile, on their Magenta and Go 5G plans, actually includes taxes and fees in the advertised price. They call it taxes and fees included. You see $80 on the website, you pay $80 on the bill. That is the entire concept. It is not a magic trick. And the prepaid carriers, Visible, which runs on Verizon's network, Mint Mobile, which runs on T-Mobile's network, Cricket, which is owned by AT&T, almost universally include taxes and fees in their advertised prices. Visible specifically advertises plans at $25 a month, and that is what you pay. $25, out the door. So when you hear they all do it, what's actually true is the 3 big postpaid carriers do it. A long list of better alternatives don't. And one more thing on this. Visible is owned by Verizon. Same towers, same network, same speeds. The only thing different is the brand on your bill and the absence of the fee, which means Verizon, with one hand, is charging you the admin fee, and with the other hand, is running a parallel brand that doesn't charge it. They have always known the fee is not a cost. The fee is a choice. Voice number 3. I've been a loyal customer for years. They take care of me. Loyalty is an emotion. Pricing is a spreadsheet. Do not confuse the two. New customers get the shiny promos. Existing customers get stability, which is a polite word for inertia. Every year you should act like a new customer shopping for your own business. Not because you are disloyal, because your carrier is not your cousin. It is a billing relationship. Okay, we have spent 23 minutes on the problem. Now we get to the part of the video where I make you money back. Stay locked in, because every word of this next section has a dollar value attached. Remember, at the top of the video, I promised you a script you could read out loud, word for word, that statistically would get you a refund. Here it is. Step 1. Pull out your actual current bill right now and find the line. Verizon, look for administrative and telco recovery charge. AT&T, look for administrative and regulatory cost recovery fee. T-Mobile, look for regulatory programs and telco recovery fee. Add up what you have been paying. per line, per month, across all lines, across the last year. That number is what you have quietly given them. Whatever that number is, $50, $200, $200, $400, write it down. Because in step 3, you are going to ask for it back. Step 2. Before you call, do 15 minutes of homework. Look up what a comparable plan on Visible, Mint Mobile, Cricket, or US Mobile would cost you. Same number of lines, same data needs. Write that number down too. You are not necessarily going to switch, but when you talk to the retention agent, you need to be able to say specifically, I have looked at Visible, and for my 3 lines, I'd pay X dollars, which is Y dollars less than I'm paying you after fees. Vague dissatisfaction is ignorable. Specific alternatives create urgency. Step 3. Call your carrier. The number is on your bill. The first customer service representative you reach is almost never authorized to remove the fee. Don't waste time arguing with them. As soon as they decline, politely say, I'd like to speak with the retention department, or I'm considering canceling my service. Either one will route you up the chain. Step 4. When you get the retention agent on the line, do not lead with anger. Do not lead with a script you read on Reddit. Lead with calm, specific information. Say this, Hi, I see I've been paying the administrative and telco recovery charge of $3.78 per line per month for the past 4 years. That is roughly $181 a year for my account. I understand from your own website that this is not a government-mandated fee. I'm asking for either a permanent waiver of that charge or a recurring monthly credit equal to that charge, or I'm going to port my numbers to Visible by the end of the week. Mention Visible by name. Mention the dollar amount. Mention the timeline. That phrasing tells the agent 3 things at once. You know what the fee is, you know it's optional from the company's side, and you have a specific plan to leave. That combination unlocks tools the agent isn't even allowed to offer otherwise. Then stop talking. Let them respond. The silence after you make the ask is important, and it is uncomfortable. Customer service training programs specifically coach reps to let silence work for them because most customers will fill the silence by walking back their request. Do not fill the silence. The next person who speaks is at a psychological disadvantage. Wait them out. If they still say no, and sometimes they will, politely thank them, hang up, and either call back the next day to get a different agent or actually follow through and switch. The number you saved in step 1 is your motivation. Here's the thing, the retention departments do not advertise. Different agents have different authority levels. The first agent might give a flat no, the second agent might give a $50 credit. The third agent might give $20 off your plan for a year. The system is not consistent. The system is human, which means it can be worked. Step 5. If you can't get satisfaction from retention, switch. Visible is $25 a month per line, runs on Verizon's exact same network, taxes and fees included. Mint Mobile is around $15 a month per line on multi-month prepay, runs on T-Mobile's network. Cricket runs on AT&T's. US Mobile lets you pick either Verizon or T-Mobile, same towers, same coverage. None of the admin fee theater. If you switch from a Verizon postpaid family plan at $215 a month after fees to Visible at $25 per line, same network, same speeds, same coverage, for 4 lines that's $115 a month in savings. $1,400 a year just by changing the brand on your bill. $1,400 a year just by changing the brand. Read that one more time. The network is identical, the speeds are identical, the coverage is identical. Only the logo is different, and the logo is costing you $1,400 a year. Let me tell you about somebody I'll call Marcus. Marcus has had the same wireless carrier for 8 years. He does not love them, he does not hate them. They are just there. His bill is on autopay. He has 3 lines, him, his wife, his teenage daughter. A few years ago, Marcus remembers the bill being around $165. Now it's $218. He tells himself, well, everything got more expensive. Which is true, but not specific enough. One night, he actually opens the PDF bill, which, by the way, is where the financial ghosts live. Not the app summary, the PDF. The app says, amount due, $218.43. The PDF says why. He sees device payments. Okay, fair. He sees insurance on 2 phones. He forgot about that. He sees an old tablet line from a promotion. The tablet is sitting in a drawer. He sees administrative fees on every line. He sees a $6 late payment charge because his card expired and autopay failed 2 months ago. None of those line items is dramatic. But together, they are eating $50 to $70 a month. Marcus does the math. $60 a month is $720 a year. Over 3 years, $2,160. That is not a little bill creep. That is a vacation. That is a month of groceries. That is money his family had already mentally lost because nobody wanted to read a phone bill. And here is the thing I want you to take away from this video. More than any specific dollar amount or any specific carrier, the reason your phone bill is structured the way it is isn't because phone bills are inherently complicated. The math of a wireless plan is incredibly simple. You pay a flat amount, you get some amount of service. The end. The reason your phone bill has 15 line items is because somewhere, a long time ago, somebody at a phone company figured out that if you split one price into many smaller prices, customers would resist the smaller prices less than they would resist the bigger price. Then they figured out that if you gave those smaller prices official-sounding names, customers would assume the prices were unavoidable. Then they figured out that if you slowly raise those small, official-sounding prices over the course of a decade, customers would never notice. And then they figured out that they could do all of this, and the federal government would not stop them. Because no individual fee, on its own, is illegal. It is all technically legal, every bit of it. None of these fees are crimes. The carriers are not breaking the law. They didn't break the law, they wrote it. The frustration you feel when you look at your phone bill and realize you've been paying more than you thought you agreed to, that frustration is legitimate. You are not bad with money. You are not failing to read the fine print. You are responding correctly to a system that was engineered with significant intent and significant resources to extract a little more from you than you noticed. Here's the mindset shift. Stop reading your phone bill as a bill to be paid. Start reading it as an offer to be evaluated. Every month your carrier is making you an offer. You have the right, and now the knowledge, to counter that offer, to shop it against alternatives, or to decline it entirely and take your business elsewhere. Phone bill administrative fees survive because they are boring. They do not feel like a scam. They do not feel like a major decision. They do not feel worth fighting. They feel like the price of modern life. But that is how small fees win. They hide below your anger threshold. They dress up in official language. They repeat until they become normal. Boring is where consumer money goes to die. So the next time you see a phone plan advertised for $45, do not ask, is it $45? Ask, what will actually leave my bank account every month? Because that is the only price that matters. Not the billboard price, not the app price. The bank account price. And if your carrier cannot explain that number clearly, that confusion is not your failure. It is part of the product. Open the bill. Read the boring lines. Make the call. Use the script. Save the money. Multiply it across a decade. It is not just $16 a month. It is $1,100 a year. It is a down payment on something you actually want. And it has been sitting at the bottom of your bill the whole time. One last thing before you go. Remember at the beginning of this video I asked you to comment your carrier? Go do that now. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, or other. Because next week I want to make a follow-up video about which carrier responded best to this retention script, and the only way I find that out is from you. They didn't break the law. They wrote it. Terms apply. I'll see you next week.